Hello, everyone. Hello, Ghost. How are you? Hello, Jasper. Wow. Hello, Athena and Svitlana. Thank you. Hello. We'll get started in just a couple minutes here when people arrive. I'm going to be reading from my blog and we'll talk about my articles. Let me fix that while I forgot I need to edit something. Edit. Where is that? Balancing. There we go. And post. I look cute in this hat. I'm glad you think so. I like a good hat. It's getting hot again. It's so humid. I don't live in the jungle, but it starts to feel like it around this time of the year. Hello, Quindigo. That's an interesting name. It's like a mixture of indigo and Quinn. I like that, Quindigo. And hello, Jaja. Hello, Carl. All right, so how is everyone doing? We're going to get started in just another few minutes. I just want to wait until a few more people arrive. Hello, Vadim. Ah. Yeah, those are pretty good words. Those are good words because I feel like those words are like a C1 more than C2 level, which means they're more practically useful, right? So the words meticulous and ubiquitous, those are actually good, useful words that are, that can help you describe things better, right? More accurately. So that's good. But then there's a funny thing that happens with vocabulary, that sometimes the more advanced the vocabulary becomes, it has a lessening returns in communicative value, which means that the bigger the word, sometimes you stop. You're not communicating anymore, you're showing off. So what happens is you chose a big word because you want people to think you're smart. But the problem is you sacrificed communication for ego. So instead of choosing a simpler word that people would understand and connect with better and understand your ideas more clearly, you chose a word that's the highest level, and maybe it's exclusionary. It some people don't understand it, like that word, right? The word exclusionary. Some people know that word, some people don't know that word. That's why I said exclusionary, and then I told you what it means. It means that some people don't understand. To exclude means to leave people out. Include and exclude. Include means to keep people in. Exclude means to keep people out. Okay, so inclusion means, yeah, you can join, no problem. Exclusion means, no, you can't join. Not for you. Okay? So, yeah. But C1 level, I think, is very, very, very practically useful and still academically elevated. Okay? So that's why I really think that C1 should be the goal for most people. Most people should be attempting to reach a C1 level. C2 is just, honestly, it's not even that useful. It's just not. It's not. I know C2 level language. I rarely use it. There are not that many situations where it's practically valuable. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm trying to just get you to understand that it might not be as valuable. But C1 is definitely, B2 is definitely practically valuable and useful always. And high-level words are for reading and writing. Yeah, they're for speaking too, and listening too. But again, it's all about knowing when. You have to know when to use things. And that's why the music analogy is so important. When I'm in a room where people expect rock music, I play rock music. When I'm in a room where people expect jazz music, I play jazz music. So the same thing is true with this, where there are certain rooms where you'll need this vocabulary, but then there'll be another room where you need a different vocabulary. That's called reading the room. Reading the room. Oh. Let's see. Many same root words. Right. Well, again, Vadim, English has hundreds and thousands of root words that are the same. That's etymology. It's one of my favorite things. And yeah, there are lots of shun words that way in English, right? Those are all root word related. Okay? Suffix or affixes are basically root words, mostly. Okay, let's see. Hello, Lynn. I think we're just about ready to get started. Hello, Johnny. We only have about 27 people here, but that's all right. That's about a classroom. That's about a classroom. I don't need 700,000 people. I just need a classroom. So I'm going to be reading from my blog, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. And you can ask me questions if you have questions. Okay? about my blog. You can ask me questions about my blog. Okay? I would ask that everybody please remember a basic rule of human decency, which is that when you meet someone and they're in the middle of talking about something, it's not polite for you to interrupt them and ask about something completely different. Okay? That's normal. Okay? If you're talking to one of your friends about your family and it's very important, and then I walk up and I just ask you, hey, can you tell me the difference between this word and this word? My question has nothing to do with what you're talking about. That's kind of rude. Right? So, just remember that. All right, let's get started. Now that I've lectured everybody. All right, let's start with shadowing. We're going to talk about shadowing first. You guys know what shadowing is, right? Shadowing. Shadowing the best. Why who you imitate matters more than you think. Okay? This is an article from my blog. All right, I'm going to read, and as I read, I will try to explain anything that I think needs more explanation. But if there are some things you don't really understand, you can try to ask me questions about it in the comments. Okay? Now, this might be a little bit difficult for some of you. If it feels very difficult, I suggest you just try to listen and just catch anything that you can. Try to understand anything you can. All right? All right, I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, shadowing the best. Why who you imitate matters more than you think. If you've ever tried to improve your English by listening and repeating after native speakers, then you've already begun using a technique called shadowing. Shadowing means mimicking the speech of another person. Okay, mimicking means to pretend to be like, to act like. Okay, so shadowing means you're acting like another person. You see somebody and you act like them. Now you are shadowing them. Okay? Listening carefully to their rhythm, their tone, their pronunciation, and their phrasing. And just as importantly, watching them whenever possible. Okay? Because shadowing isn't just listening. It's watching how they move, how they use their hands, their face, their eyes. It's noticing their body language, their timing, their energy, their presence. You're watching their vocabulary, their grammar, their pronunciation and accent, their speed and rhythm, their use of space and silence, intonation, projection, and dynamics, as well as their confidence and their vibe. So do we understand all those? I think you know vocabulary and grammar and pronunciation and accent and speed. What does rhythm mean? What is rhythm? It's kind of like tune. Yeah, it's a musical word, right? So rhythm is the way that you use words with space between them. So if I speak like this, then every word has the same rhythm and every word sounds the same, and it becomes very boring because everything is the same rhythm, right? Dot, 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 right? But when you change the rhythm, and sometimes you make it fast, and sometimes you make it slow. That's rhythm. Okay? Sometimes I say like this, And sometimes I say like that. That's rhythm. And it makes it more interesting to listen to. Okay? Yeah, it's kind of like pace, but pace is more like what we call tempo. Tempo means the speed of a song. Okay? And but pace can change, can go up and it can come down, right? And you have to know how to use all of these things, fluently. You have to feel comfortable. That's a better word, comfortably. You have to be comfortable with your grammar. You have to be comfortable with your vocabulary and your pronunciation. Okay? And space is important. Space is important. Look what happens when you use space. There's power in space. There's control in space. When you pause, you have control. If you never stop, you don't have control. Okay? There's power in space. When you say a word and then you leave space after it, it makes people think about that word more. So when I drop a word and I say, listen to me very carefully. Listen to what I say. The word carefully. After that, there was this long space, and now you have to think about the word carefully so much. So, space is important. Space is very important. Okay? Intonation is about going up and coming down, and going up and coming down. And it's the music of your language. It's the music. You have to make words into music. It can't have all the same pitch all the same time, because if everybody speaks like this all the time, then the pitch is the same and it's boring and nobody wants to hear that all the time. Like a robot. Right. Robots. We know that robots don't have intonation. Not yet, at least. So intonation is about the ups and downs. Okay? And English is a very emotionally intonal language. It has a lot of intonation in the emotions. Okay? Projection means, can I hear you? Sometimes people are so shy. I had one student who, she was so shy that when she asked questions, I seriously couldn't hear her sometimes. She would say, Teacher Marble, I have a question. When I use vowels, should I pronounce them more or less? Nobody can hear her. I said, what is wrong? Are you okay? Is your voice okay? What's wrong? She was just shy. She was just too shy. She never learned how to project her voice. You have to say things loudly enough for people to hear you. That's projection. Okay? And then dynamics means that sometimes you get loud and strong like this, but sometimes you want to come down soft like this. And it adds a gentleness to the words. Right? So these are the things that we learn in music. Dynamics are part of music. Projection is part of music. Intonation is music. Silence and space, that's music. Rhythm and speed, that's music. Okay? Those are all things that we use in music. These are musical ideas. Think about your language like music. Please. It is music if you make it so. And then confidence and vibe. Confidence and vibe. Confidence, we know what confidence is. Vibe. Vibe is the feeling that this person gives you. Do you get a good vibe or a bad vibe? Do you have a positive feeling or a negative feeling? Do you like this person? Do you not like this person? Do you think they're cool or creepy? That's vibe. Okay? Those are all important. So you're not just copying their words, you're copying their communication. Okay? But here's the part that many people miss. Shadowing only works if you're shadowing the right person. Hello, Belen. Shadowing only works if you're shadowing the right person. And this is the big mistake that most people make. Too often, learners mimic random vloggers or streamers or social media influencers simply because they like the content, not realizing that the person they're copying may speak too fast or use poor grammar or mumble their words or rely too heavily on slang, right? So sometimes the person who you're watching, you like their content. You think their content is interesting. Okay, great. But guess what? Having interesting content does not make them good speakers. Okay? And I think sometimes your idea of speaking is that you want to have you want to sound like a native, right? So you want to sound all cool and casual with your language. But to be cool and casual, you have to be confident. And to be confident, you have to have experience. And it's better if you have experience with good language first, proper language first. And then once you learn the proper language and it's nice and tight and controlled and careful, then you can relax and it will become looser and more relaxed and comfortable like the natives. But first it has to be tight. First it must be tight. All right? You have to learn how to get controlled language before you have loose language. Okay? You have to learn how to get controlled language before you have loose language. All right? So don't just listen to some guy. Find somebody with a good accent, good pronunciation, good vocabulary. Find somebody who speaks well, not just someone who speaks. Okay? All right, let's move on. Let's see. Shadowing someone like that is like learning to play music by copying the self-taught guy next door who plays guitar in his basement once a week just for fun. So if you're learning the guitar, should you listen to the greatest guitar players and try to model yourself after them? Or should you listen to the guy who plays guitar, who lives next door, and he's not very serious, and he doesn't have a teacher, and he never learned from any books or any information. He just learned by himself, and he only plays once a week. So the point is that you shouldn't listen to just anyone. You shouldn't listen to just anyone. You should listen to the best. Okay? He might love music and he might have a lot of fun, but if he makes a lot of mistakes and you're learning from him, then you are learning his mistakes. Okay? That's the point. Is that when you don't choose well, you are learning their mistakes. Okay? When you take music lessons, your teacher doesn't say, just listen to anyone who plays. No. They say, study the best. They want you to absorb the precision and control and clarity and emotion and depth and musicality of professionals. Okay? Precision means to be accurate, to be careful. Okay? Control is important. You don't want to speak fast. You don't want to speak slow. You don't want to speak loudly. You don't want to speak softly. You want to speak with control, which means that you can do all of those things. If you have control of your language, then you can speak quickly or slowly. If you have control of your language, then you can speak with academic language or with simple language. If you have control of your speech, then you can speak with this emotion or that emotion, right? So the goal is control. Okay? And the same goes for speech. So ask yourself, who are you shadowing? And are they worth imitating? Or should you find someone better? Choose a voice worth borrowing, right? So choose a good voice. Every voice you listen to becomes a model inside your brain, even if you're not trying to copy it. Okay? They become models. So be intentional. Intentional means to do it with intention. I meant to do that. I'm thinking about it carefully and choosing. Okay, I'm not just randomly choosing. No, I'm careful. I'm intending to choose this. Okay? If you want to sound clear and fluent and confident, then shadow someone who is clear and fluent and confident. Look for voices that speak with strong enunciation. Enunciation means to speak very clearly. Okay, to speak very clearly. Use thoughtful pacing, right? So thoughtful pacing means when that person is speaking, they're trying to pay attention to their audience to make sure they don't go too fast or too slow. That's pacing. Okay? And they avoid sloppy grammar or heavy filler slang, right? Filler slang means that's like when you say filler words in between, like or or maybe you say like a lot, right? Like I went to the store and like I did this and like I did that. Those are called filler words. Okay? You don't want that. That's not good. That's not good. So if somebody's doing that, don't follow them. Don't mimic them. Okay? Avoid sloppy grammar, right? We use language with clarity and care. You want to find somebody who uses language with clarity and care. You want to find somebody who sounds intelligent, calm, and engaging. Engaging. Engaging means it's interesting. You want to listen to more. Okay? Some great examples are TED Talk speakers are intelligent. TED Talk speakers are calm. TED Talk speakers are engaging. They use language with clarity and care. They avoid sloppy grammar or or filler heavy slang. They have thoughtful pacing. And not all of them, but many of them have strong enunciation. Okay, so TED Talks, great. Professional news anchors. Most of them fit most of these categories. Trained actors, good ones, good actors, they fit these categories. Documentary narrators, that's a good one, like David Attenborough or what's his name? Oh, why can't I remember his name? Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll think of it later. Burns. Something Burns. Ken Burns. Ken Burns. Another great one. Ken Burns is a great voice. That's a documentary voice. Okay? Louis Gates Jr., another great one. Louis Gates Jr. is a professor from Harvard University, and he has a great show on TV called Finding Your Roots. Finding Your Roots, where he talks to famous people, celebrities and politicians and people like that, and he helps them trace their family roots as far back as they can. And then they tell the story. They tell the story of their family. It's a really interesting show with great language. So you can check out Louis Gates Jr. Jane Pauley, very famous broadcaster. She's been doing news since I was a boy. I've been watching her. She has a fantastic voice. You can watch CBS Sunday Morning News with Jane Pauley, and it's excellent. David Attenborough does all the documentaries about Earth. If you've ever seen any of those TV shows about Earth, it's usually his voice. Okay? Bye, Gabriel. Morgan Freeman, of course, famous for his voice. They're not just pleasant to listen to. These people are clear. They're deliberate. They speak with control and with depth. Okay? They're worth copying. These are people who are worth copying. Okay, if you don't know these people, go listen to them. They have great voices. Okay? Musicians already know this. Musicians instinctively understand the importance of who you study. They don't just play randomly, they study greatness. So jazz saxophone players, they studied the great John Coltrane. Jazz trumpeters studied the great Miles Davis. Rock guitarists, they worshipped and studied the great Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton and Eddie Van Halen and many, many more. Right? So musicians, we always do this. If you want to be a great drummer, pay attention to the great drummers. If you want to be a great singer, pay attention to the great singers. That's simple. It's basic, right? Yeah, but for some reason, you are not very careful the way musicians are careful. We are careful who we listen to. I don't listen to bad bands who play bad music. I listen to good bands who play good music. Okay? But sometimes you're on YouTube and you're listening to just some guy. That's like bad music. Okay? It's like bad music. All right, so, and they didn't just listen once. Musicians, we listen hundreds of times. We slow the music down. We imitate the music note for note. We try to capture the phrasing, the energy, the tone, not to become a copy, but to absorb greatness so they can build their own sound on top of it. So you follow the greats so that you can become great. Okay? I can't tell you how many great, iconic drummers I have personally shadowed, studied, examined, watched, and listened to in great detail and with obsessive scrutiny. Okay? How to read that word? Deliberate? Is that the word you're looking for, Doris? Okay, so language learners would be wise to do the same. Musicians know that to find their own voice, sometimes it helps to study the voices of the masters who came before you, right? And the particular masters you choose to shadow and emulate eventually blend together into a special voice that's uniquely yours. Every voice is a unique creation of its own foundational influential experiences. So what that means is, here's what that means. What that means is, I want to sound like me. I want to sound like me. But before I can sound like me, I have to try to sound like other people. Right? So I'll follow great people. And I'll choose certain ones. Right? So the ones I choose are maybe different than the ones you choose. The people that you like are different than the people who I like. Right? So what that means is that if I follow these 5 people, those are my influences, and they become one unique new voice that is my voice. Your influences become you. The mix of influences that you have, they become you. So that's why you need influences. You need influences to become yourself. Okay? Before I can be myself, I must be many others. That's what we think. Okay, so before I could be Mark the drummer, I had to try to be John Bonham, the drummer from Led Zeppelin, and Steve Gadd, the drummer from many bands, and Alex Van Halen from Van Halen, and Jack DeJohnette from jazz, Miles Davis. And I studied my favorites, and I tried to pretend to be just like them. And then all of those combine into one, and then it becomes me. That's my voice. That's the way this works. Shadow people. All of those people will become one new person. That's you. Okay? Shadow like a musician. Shadowing is methodical. Methodical means that you have a method. You're not just kind of watching. No. You're paying attention to many things. Okay? It's focused. It's how you build mouth muscle memory and rhythm awareness, right? Here's how to shadow well. Pick somebody truly worth copying. Watch them and listen as well, right? Pause and repeat. Sometimes you can, if they say something great, pause and try to repeat it. Okay? If you like that thing, try to repeat it. Slow down the audio if you need to. You can do that now. You're lucky. You have technology that can help you. Okay? Record yourself. Try to compare. Listen. Do you sound like them or not? Don't just match the words, but the tone and the pace and the flow. Right? Give the same feeling that they did. Do your best. It's like acting. Okay? Pay attention to their passion and their energy. All right? This is important because every sentence you say is a song. Did you know that? Did you know that every sentence you say is a song? Do you know what I mean by that? What do I mean by that? Every sentence you say is a song. What does that mean? Anyone? Intonation? Kind of. More. Tell me more. What does it mean? Every sentence is a song. Because it's not only words. Okay, more. You're saying it your way. Okay, more. Come on. You're getting there. Unique voice, tones, and expression. Yeah. Okay. But put it this way. Put it this way. If I sing this song, listen. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. If I sing it like that, it sounds like that. If I sing it like this, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. I'm trying to put some life into it. I suck at singing, but I'm trying to put some life into it, right? The point is that just like music, when you see music on the page, when you see music in the notes, the music doesn't have any emotion. It has no feelings. You have to give it feelings. So your words are the same thing. If you say it like this, to be or not to be, that is the question. No. No, no, no. That's not how you say those words. Those words are supposed to be or not to be. That is the question. Yeah, what I call it, Sophia. Musicians, when we see the music on the paper, we have to breathe life into that music. It's like CPR. You have to go down there and go and breathe life into the words. The words. You have to give them life. They have no life. They have no life. They have no meaning until you give them life and until you give them meaning. Okay? So I can say these same words. Words have no life. They have no meaning until you give them meaning. You see the difference? Do you see the difference? You have to breathe life into the words. You can't just say them like they're dead words. Breathe life into them. Okay? Give them life. That's the way we do this. Pay attention to their passion and their energy. Don't forget to watch them. What are they saying with their body, with their arms? How are they moving? What does their face look like? What are they saying with their eyes? Words, language is not just with your mouth. Language is a complete body experience. Okay? And then just do your best to repeat it again and again until it becomes natural. Because over time, you will start to sound like the voices you surround yourself with. If you want to sound like that voice, surround yourself with that voice. If I want to sound like this drummer, then I listen to that drummer every single day. Every song I can find, I will listen to it 1,000 times. So if you like that person, surround yourself with their voice. Okay? You're not just learning to speak, you're learning how to pay attention to sound. And this is why musicians have an advantage in language learning. Because when you learn to be a musician, you learn to listen carefully. You learn to analyze the way people make sound. Okay? There are voices everywhere, but not all voices are good teachers. Some are fast but foolish. Some are cool but careless. Some are likable but lazy. If you're serious about learning to speak well, then be serious about who you choose to imitate. Find a voice that reflects the you want to become. Okay? Shadow it carefully. Study it deeply. Do this with as many great speakers as you can. And over time, these voices will melt into one. And then you will have begun to truly find your own voice. Clearer, smoother, stronger. Because you built your language on a solid foundation of great speakers, it will have a strong and lasting effect. Because language isn't just about speaking. It's about sounding like you. And that's that. Any questions? This article is right here. If you want to read it for yourself, you can try to go to there and read it. Okay? Shadowing is really important, but you have to be careful who you shadow. Don't just choose anyone. Choose the best. Okay? Any questions about shadowing or the article? Can you buy me a cup of tea? Sure you can. It's funny, you can actually change that on the Buy Me a Coffee app. You can change it to buy me a tea or buy me a pizza or buy me a coffee, I think. Yeah. Do you have to struggle with pronunciation? Well, that doesn't have to do with this, but yes. Yes, just like I had to struggle with pronunciation in Chinese, right? Pronunciation is important. But you don't have to be perfect, okay? You don't have to be perfect. Sometimes your goal in pronunciation, you have the wrong goal. I'm writing that article too. There's another article coming that's about that. And the article is going to be about how you think that the goal is to have a perfect accent. That is not the goal. No, you have the wrong goal. You have the wrong goal. The goal is not to have a perfect accent. The goal is to have a clear accent. That's not the same thing. Okay? Is imitating like analyzing? No. Analyzing means to look at something and consider it carefully. Imitating is to look at something and pretend to do it. Okay? Now, when you imitate, you should analyze, but they're not exactly the same. Right? When you imitate someone, the purpose of imitating them is to analyze the way they do language so that you can do it that way too. And that you understand the value of certain things. When you really look at how someone speaks, then you'll learn the value of the vocabulary. You'll learn the value of timing and pacing and tempo. You'll learn the value of body language. You'll learn the value of connecting. That's a very good one, right? So, you're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to do the best you can to imitate the greats. That's really it, right? So when I wanted to learn to play the drums, I found the best drum teacher I could. And I would go watch him play every chance I could. I would go watch him play. And I would sit there and just study the man. I'd watch the way he moves for hours. Do you understand? One performance is usually about 3 hours. I went to many performances to study him. And I would go to many more because he's great. And I love watching him. Okay? There is no better. There's only different. You have nervousness and confidence issues. Well, when you see a tunnel, there's a mountain, right? Here's the mountain, and there's the tunnel. And the tunnel is dark, and it's scary. Oh no, it's a scary dark tunnel. What will happen? But what happens? What does happen? When you see the scary dark tunnel, what happens? When you go through it, what happens? You get to the other side, and then what happens then? You say, oh, well look, it wasn't that scary. It wasn't that bad. I thought it was scary, but it really wasn't. This is also the way you are in language. Okay? It's the same way in language where if you want to be nervous, then don't go through the tunnel. If you don't want to be nervous, then go through the tunnel. When you get to the other side, you'll feel better. So confidence means you must go through the tunnel. Going through the tunnel means do it. Speak. Speak and be shy, but speak anyway. That's called being brave. When you're afraid but you do it anyway, that's called bravery. Okay? To be understandable is the main thing. Yeah, that's the basic thing, is to be understandable. And then the next thing is to connect. How can you change your Chinese thinking? You always think in Chinese in your mind, then you translate to English. So stop. Start with simple things. Okay? Just anything simple that you think in Chinese, stop thinking it in Chinese and think it in English. Like the weather. Can you stop thinking about the weather in Chinese? And from now on, anytime you want to think about the weather, you must use English. The weather is not complicated. The weather is simple. Learn how to talk about the weather in English. Learn how to think about the weather only in English. So tomorrow, if it's hot, you cannot say 今天是很热. No, you must say it's really hot today. Okay? Or food. Food. From now on, when you think about food, you cannot think about it unless you think about it in English. If you don't know how, sit down and write it down. That's your homework. That's your homework. Does shadowing have steps, like, for example, repetition? Shadowing is a process that's different for every person, I think. Okay? I think that everybody does it in a different way. I'm trying to show you the things that you should pay attention to. Right? many people, when they shadow, they don't know what to pay attention to. That's the problem. You don't know that you're supposed to pay attention to their vocabulary. You're supposed to pay attention to their pronunciation and their dynamics and their speed and their projection and their pacing and their tone and their vibe and their confidence. You're supposed to pay attention to those things. So it doesn't really have steps. It does have qualities that you should know and pay attention to. I always tell my students in public speaking courses that to imitate a great speaker at first. Yes, you want to imitate speakers. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Dark tunnels hide lots of bats. They'll bite you. I've been in lots of tunnels. I've never been bitten by a bat. When we speak by shadowing, do you think we need to repeat more, or we speak freely to improvise? First you repeat, then you speak freely. So that's the way practicing works, everybody. When you study something, like an exercise, right? You work on that exercise. For example, let's say you're practicing your prepositions, like at and in and on, right? Okay, so work on your prepositions for 1 hour doing some worksheets. Just exercises, right? And then I want you to take 15 minutes and play with it. Write something. Anything that you want, a story, but use prepositions in the story. So when I would practice drums, when I do practice drums, there is a skill that I'll work on. I'll choose a skill to work on for 30 minutes or an hour or something like that. And then after I work on that skill for 30 minutes or an hour, then I take 15 minutes or 30 minutes and I play with that skill. I improvise with that skill. I try to use that skill in my own way. Okay, so first you learn the skill of somebody else, and then you try to play with it by yourself. Okay, that's an important part of learning and practicing. There are a lot of people's names and places which are long and I don't know how to read them. Doris, I feel the same way when I read Chinese. Sometimes when I read Chinese, I'm like, what's this word? I don't know this word. And it's just somebody's name. You know, it's like, I don't know how to read that word. That's what vocabulary word is that? And it's not a word at all. It's somebody's name. Can I speak Italian as well? Only a little tiny bit, Marco. I know a few words. That's it, you know. I studied Latin a long time ago, Marco, and I'm a nerd for Latin etymology, like the history of where the words come from. So I don't speak Italian, no, but I can look at it and understand quite a bit because of my background. Yeah, think about it in homework, or think about it in English. That's your homework. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right, any other questions? Any other questions? We were talking about shadowing, but at this point I'm talking about whatever. It's been almost an hour, so we're almost done here. So I read one article from my blog, and again, if you like that, you should go read more. Now, I know, look at me right now. I know it's hard. I also know they are a little bit long. Look at me. So what? You're trying to learn. If you are trying to learn, then it's not supposed to be easy. That's why people who use TikTok all day get dumber. If you use things that make you think in only short snippets every day, if you're only capable of thinking in small amounts, you're not capable of thinking at all. Let me say that again. If you're only capable of thinking in little bits, then you're not even capable of thinking. Because life, nothing is simple. Everything is complicated. And if it's complicated, then you need the words to be able to explain it and think about it and consider it. Okay? So, my point is, if you are telling me, I can't read your blog, Teacher Mark, it's too hard for me, it's too long, it's 8,000 characters, Teacher Mark, oh my God, what am I going to do? Go change your diaper and come back and read it. It's reading. Really? Is reading really that hard? It's not. It's not. It can be done. It can be done. Okay? It can be done. So do it. And by the way, any good teacher is going to push you to do more, not less. Any good teacher is going to push you to do more, not less. Okay? That's right. Change today, create tomorrow. That's right. All right, guys, it has been 57 minutes, so it's just about time for me to go. But don't give up so easily. Learning is supposed to be hard. It doesn't have to be impossible, and it's not. With the right teacher, learning is possible. With the right attitude, it's possible. But you also have to be like a tiger. I'm going to teach you guys one vocabulary word to end today. Do you guys know the word tenacious? Tenacious, tenacity. To be tenacious. What does it mean to have tenacity or to be tenacious? What does that mean? Anyone? To have tenacity. To be tenacious. It's not quite like resilience. It's a little different than that. To be tenacious, it means to be like a tiger that's hungry. Does a hungry tiger give up? A hungry tiger never gives up. So you have to be like a hungry tiger for information. You have to be like a hungry tiger for learning. You have to be tenacious. That's hunger that never goes away. That's hunger that must be sated. You have to eat. Be tenacious, like a tiger. Don't give up. Okay? Get that meal. All right, I have to go. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching. Thank you for following. If you like my blog, go to my blog. Here it is right here. One moment. This is my blog. You may go to there. If you want to follow there, you can go there. You can also go to my link tree and follow all my links. You can find my YouTube here. And where... Oh, what just happened? There we go. Get rid of that. Yeah, go to my link tree and you can find everything to follow me. Okay? Okay, guys. Have a good one. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay? You're welcome. Bye-bye. Oh, and there's Johnny and Miguel. Hello, Johnny and Miguel. Thanks for watching.